So, welcome back to Lights, Camera, Baby, where we bring expert guidance, heartfelt conversations for parents and parents to be. Now, I'm your host, Prajani Patha, and today we're talking about something every new parent experiences, and that's our babies crying. Now, babies cry, and often it can feel really, really overwhelming. But what if we could understand what our babies' cries are telling us and how we can soothe them with great confidence? That would make all our lives so much easier. And I'm sure all the mums and dads that are listening today are dying to understand what those secret tips are all about. So, to help me unpack this, I'm really excited to be joined again by Sister Linda Britz. Now, Linda is a midwife, a lactation consultant, and a childbirth educator, and she works really, really closely with parents on exactly these challenges. So, Linda, welcome back.
Thank you.
Let's start off with why crying is such an important topic for new parents. I mean, you told me about this earlier. It's a very, very popular topic, right?
It is. Thank you, Prajani. So, yes, crying is the way that baby communicates with you. But first, I want to just tell you something so special. When baby is born, regardless of the type of birth, they will make their first cry and take their first breath. And that first breath opens up their lungs. In other words, up until that point in time, they've been breathing through the cord and getting their oxygen and giving back all the byproducts of the carbon dioxide. Basically getting the oxygen that they need through the cord. And so as they're born, they are stimulated by the environment, the cooler air that they're coming into, and they start to take their first breath, and their first cry is acknowledged as a different cry because it opens up the lungs. And now the blood goes via, instead of bypassing the lungs, it's going via the lungs, picking up oxygen. And there's a little hole in the heart where it was bypassing the lungs. And that little hole, called the patent ductus arteriosus, PDA, is actually closing down and can close over the next 20 minutes. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer, but averagely, in the first few hours, that little hole closes so that the blood cannot bypass the lungs. It has to go via the lungs and pick up oxygen, and baby is now breathing on their own. So that first cry initiates that physiological process, that breathing process in baby. And that's a cry that is never repeated. Not that it's any different to a cry that you would recognize that the babies do after that, but it initiates that first breath of life, which is just so precious. Very precious.
Really, really precious. Full circle from, conception to that first cry, right?
And that's exciting.
Now, tell me, we all want to know, why do babies cry?
Right.
Let's go through the basics.
Different, and it is. That's what I was just going to say. They have basic needs.
Yeah.
They need to be fed. They usually are hungry, and they need to be fed. They need to grow. So that's part of that. They need to be comfortable. They need to be warm. If they're cold, they're going to cry. Usually babies that are too warm will just be lethargic and they don't usually cry. But babies that are kept cooler are going to be uncomfortable, feel that discomfort of being exposed and cry. So they'll cry for that discomfort. They may have a cramp in their gut, in their lower gut, that is causing discomfort. And when you've got a wind in your tummy, it can be quite sore and uncomfortable. And this is something new that they're experiencing. It's something like, what is that? Wow, that doesn't feel so comfortable. Where that I'm experiencing is uncomfortable.
Right.
And then they may pass a wind. Or they might have a little burp or a little wind in the tummy, which is actually now going to be expelled, and they're going to make a little burping sound. So you'll burp, baby, and they sort of bring up that wind that they took. So when they're feeding, they're actually taking in a bit of wind as well through their noses as they breathe.
Okay.
And they can swallow like little winds. And as they're drinking, it obviously gets captured in the tummy, and it can be causing quite a bit of discomfort against that little stomach. And so when babies sit up or you burp them to get that little wind out, it can create quite a discomfort, and they can cry because they're uncomfortable, and then they burp and they stop crying. And so they can cry for even that. And then tiredness. Of course, babies grow when they're sleepy. And when they sleep in, there's lots of different growth processes happening in their bodies. And so babies sleep very well for the first 2 weeks. And then they start to wake up to life a little bit and their wake windows change. But if they're really tired, they may cry. If they're overstimulated, if there's too many lights, babies grow and learn through their senses.
Right.
And so if there's too many bright lights or too many noises around them, too many smells, often when moms go home from hospital, the first night, because babies are much more alert at nighttime because they've changed their cycles, more sleepy during the day, more alert at nighttime, anything that worries them during the nighttime, be it a cramp or a little burp or tiredness or overstimulation, and usually the first night they'll pick up different smells because obviously they're used to the familiar sounds that they've picked up in the pregnancy through mommy's tummy. They could hear the dog bark outside or different noises like that. But the smells can be different to the hospital smell.
Of course.
And so they can be quite unsettled. And in order of senses, it's touch first, then smell. So even handling baby can be overwhelming for baby, just touching them. Being touched too much. And then, of course, different smells, and then taste, and then hearing, and then sight. So you can see that can become too much, and then they get overstimulated. And there's too many inputs into their little systems that they just can see too much, hear too much, smell too much, and it's just overwhelming. And so they start to be overwhelmed and start to cry and communicate like, I've had enough. I need to go to bed, and they can't talk. They can't say, oh, Mom, I'm really tired. Would you put me down to bed or come and
Yes.
tuck me in? Or I'm thirsty, give me a glass of water. Or can you feed me? I need my milk
So it's a
now.
form of communication.
That's right. But the nice thing is that we have to figure them out.
Yes,
Otherwise, we'd put them in a cupboard and forget about them.
that's true.
And if they didn't cry, we'd be worried. So
Yes.
they need to cry to communicate with us, to tell them what their needs are so we can get to know them better. That's the simpleness of
It's
it.
I'm awake, I'm hungry, my
Simple
nappy needs
needs.
to be changed.
That's it.
I need to burp.
That's it.
I need to sleep.
And some babies do. Their nappies can bug them. Other
That's
babies,
true.
they're quite happy with a full nappy and they're not worried. But some babies, after a while, it's warm, it's sticky, it's gooey, it's burning perhaps a little bit against their skin.
Yes.
And they're going to cry about that. It's part of discomfort.
And very often, I mean, sometimes some babies cry more than others.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And sometimes parents actually feel that this child is trying to manipulate me,
Yes.
because babies get
Yes.
comfortable and they'll cry when you step away or when you
Yes.
stop feeding or when you put them down. And you
Correct.
actually wonder, is this child trying to get me to stick to him and does not want to go down, so I can't do anything, right?
Exactly. And that's how it feels, especially in the first 3 months. And 3 months sounds like a long time, but it
Yeah.
actually is the first part or the last part of the pregnancy and the first part of baby's life where they don't even know that they're on this earth. They don't actually even realize they're separate from mom. And so sometimes there's just an innate need to be close to mom, to put their head on mom's chest and hear the heartbeat that they heard when
Yes.
they were in the uterus. And so sometimes they just need that comfort of just being. And some moms will pick it up as, oh no, every time I put him down, I've fed, I've burped, I've changed, I've cuddled, I've done everything. He seems comfortable. I've done every need that I can think of. And yet he just wants to sleep on me. And that can be very natural. And then there's some babies that even on you, they're crying and uncomfortable. And that's where you will learn. And certainly by the 3rd week, start to learn different cries. And I'm not going to go through the specific cries, but you will learn your own baby's individual specific noises or cries or specific gestures that they give, even facial expressions that they give while they're crying and communicating. Now, a full-on cry where they're absolutely hysterical is actually nothing that you can interpret as a specific need because it's almost out of control. It's the initial cry where they're starting to cry, but there's almost a communication going on where you're recognizing something is different about this cry to the other cry I heard yesterday or earlier today. And so you start to identify, and then you realize, oh gosh, it's been a while since he's fed. It possibly is close to a feed time. So
Yes.
he's possibly hungry and he's rooting all over the place. Yes, he's hungry. Okay.
Yeah.
Now I know. Okay, I've recognized that cry. And it's usually around 3 weeks when moms are starting to settle down and starting to recognize those specific cries that a baby makes for a specific need.
Yeah, so actually crying is a baby's language, right?
Correct. That is absolutely
Yeah,
correct.
and through that crying and moms and dads learning to understand the cries,
Yes.
you are establishing this connection with baby
That's
because
right.
you're learning to identify
That's right.
what that cry means
And read their cues.
and read their cues. That's so fascinating.
Yeah.
But obviously, then we know they're communicating. But the next step for moms and dads, like you're saying, is to figure out what are
Why?
they trying to say?
Yes.
What
That's
am I
right.
supposed to do? What is my cue here
Yes.
when I hear that particular cry? So how do we figure that out?
Okay. I think it's important to remember that the needs are very specific and very basic. It's hunger, it's thirst, which goes alongside hunger because babies are on milk feeds, especially when they're under 6 months of age. And we're talking a young baby at the moment. It's sleep. They need a lot of sleep to grow. So tiredness, they cannot be awake for hours on end. So that would be one of them. And then being comfortable. And that can be a nappy change where that urine or that heavy nappy is burning their bum. So something in contact with the skin. Or it can be internal where there's a wind, which is involved with the feeding. So those are the basic needs. It's very unlikely to be anything else. In other words, it's not like babies asking to be bathed. I feel a little bit grubby and dirty. Please, can I have a bath? That is not a basic
Highly
need.
unlikely, yes.
Although there might be a little rash around the neck that's maybe burning a bit. So always check baby physically. Just take off everything. Take off the nappy. It could be one of the tags on the nappy that's scratching the tummy. It could be the little armpit that's got a little bit wet with a little bit of sweat, and not that babies sweat like
Yes.
adult humans.
Or during feeding.
But during feeding, there's a little bit of milk that's escaped
Yeah.
behind the ear or down into the creases of the neck because babies don't have necks; they have short little necks,
Right.
and it's got caught there and it's causing a bit of redness and a bit of abrasion there on the skin and a little bit of a rash, and that could be burning. So those are the discomforts. So it's feeding, tiredness, discomfort, and basically those are the basic needs of baby. So just remember, it won't be anything. You will eventually figure out what it is, and if you can't, and it seems like it's taking a lot of time to settle baby, then possibly it could be that baby's not well.
Okay.
And so babies sometimes will give a different cry, but maybe they won't. And in fact, the only cry that is not taught to parents or that is not available as a learning tool to recognize is the pain cry. Because they say that when a baby's in pain, the mother will just know. She'll just know that she knows that there's something different. And it could be that granny's saying, oh no, that baby's hungry. Oh no, that baby's tired. It hasn't slept yet or whatever. And in the meantime, that mom's going, no, something's not right. This baby's in discomfort and pain that I've not heard this kind of cry before. I just know that my baby's not comfortable. And then, of course, you would seek professional help. So there may be times where you just know that this is not just a basic need, that this is something a little bit more serious and baby's uncomfortable.
Yes. And I'm sure there are times as well after, doing all the checks.
Yes.
Is baby hungry? Is he tired? Is he thirsty? Or is he irritable because of a skin rash or a wind? You've done all those checks.
Correct.
And now
Twice
you
over.
know. And twice over, probably, yes. And dads come and dads
Yes,
check again,
exactly.
and try to help.
Yeah.
It's an indicator that there's
Yeah.
something underlying now that
Correct.
needs to be figured out, right?
Right.
And when to seek help.
Yeah. Because it could be like a little bit of regurgitation, a little bit of heartburn. Milk is a liquid.
Yeah.
It's in the tummy, but it could come up and burn a little bit in the esophagus. And therefore, baby doesn't lie down very easily every time you put baby down. And that's possibly where the mum feels a bit manipulated. Baby was fast asleep. I put him in his crib. He's slightly elevated, but he's flat now. And he has that little bit of a regurgitation, a little bit of milk in his mouth. It tastes a little bit sour. It's burnt his throat a little bit, and he's feeling uncomfortable. And he starts screaming because he's like, oh my gosh, that doesn't feel great. Starts crying, and mom thinks, oh my goodness, I've just put you down. And now you want to be picked up again. And she's not understanding. And then eventually you start to realize, hang on, there's a pattern to this when I'm putting him flat and that's just an example, but it can be something medically where we just need to look a little deeper. And there's no harm in asking for professional help, taking your baby to be checked.
Absolutely.
And if there is nothing, and the doctor will check his ears and his throat, and there's no redness or swelling or blocked ear, and we're happy that baby is well, there's no fever, there doesn't seem to be that baby is sick, then we know that baby's okay. Then we need to find out, why is he so uncomfortable?
Yeah.
Is it some wind in his tummy? Does he need a little bit of maybe a little massage or a little tummy massage just to get those winds loosened? Or when last did he make a stool? Was it a few days ago and he's a bit crampy now and he can feel this is about to happen, and you've suddenly forgotten, oh wait, he didn't make a stool yesterday. Oh, hang on a second, that could be what it is. So you just, it's a process of elimination.
Absolutely.
Most of the time.
I suppose keeping a baby diary is always helpful as well.
Does help. Yes, keeping a journal. And sometimes that just gives a bit of clarity because moms are tired.
Yes.
And especially when baby is draining you to a very low level of participation, where you just don't have the energy to even remember your own name or your ID number, and never mind what happened a few hours ago, or did baby make a stool. It's a good idea to keep a diary just for the first few weeks, just so that you can go back and go, oh gosh, okay, was it 3 days ago he didn't make a oh,
yes.
All right, maybe he's a bit uncomfortable there. Let's look into this.
Because the sense of time just
blurs.
melts into each other. Right.
One day into another, midnight to midnight.
Absolutely. Yes. So how do we soothe baby? How do we figure out, for those different needs, how do we create effective ways to soothe baby?
Okay. So again, looking at those basic needs and meeting them. If baby's hungry, feed baby. Make sure that they're comfortable, that they're fed well, that you've recognized a good feed. Changing the nappy, which normally happens within that routine. Making sure that baby's skin is comfortable, that they maybe need a little bit of moisturizer. If there's a little rash, treat it. Making sure they're completely comfortable and meeting the basic needs. And then if baby's still uncomfortable, try and soothe them. So dummies, which is actually a word dummy, which is a dummy of the breast. So in other words, it's a fake breast
I never
piece.
knew that.
Yes, it's a dummy of the breast.
I often thought about it. I haven't done the research, but I'm so glad.
And of course, it's got other names called pacifier and soother.
Pacifier, yes.
And that's what we use it for, to soothe a baby and pacify a baby, if all the other needs have been met. You don't use a dummy, pacifier, or soother in the first few weeks of life. Certainly the first couple of weeks, the 2 weeks after birth. We don't use a pacifier, dummy of the breast, in other words, a dummy, in the first 2 weeks, because babies are happily sucking on a dummy and not getting any milk. And we don't know. We want to establish the supply.
Yes.
And in theory, then, it comes in as an object that is not used correctly. We want to use it by what it's named. So when they do dummy crash tests with cars and things, it's not a real person. It's a dummy person. So a dummy for a baby is like the shape of a nipple for baby to suck on.
Yes.
Now, as we've said before, babies don't nipple feed, they breastfeed. But when a little pressure is placed on the top of the baby's palate, it releases serotonin, which is a good feel hormone, and relaxes babies. So that's why some children actually suck their thumbs or fingers and especially press on the top of their palate to release this hormone, and that's why they do it. And the same occurs when they're using a pacifier, soother, or dummy to soothe them. And so you can use that, but you have to make sure that all the other needs are in place. And then you can use a dummy, soother, sucking. Now, Harvey Karp, who is a doctor, an American doctor, came up with the 5 S's of soothing. And one of them is suck. Another one is swaddling. Sometimes babies need to be swaddled and tightly, not restrictive.
Right.
I'm talking tightly hugged, nice, and they feel secure, just like they did in the uterus. They had very little room to move when they were full term, and then they were birthed. And they like to feel that comfort and that warmth and that containment.
Right.
Some babies almost show us that they don't enjoy that. It's not that they don't enjoy it. It's just that they don't know how to relax in that moment. But once you swaddle them, they do tend to just close down and just calm down. When they're exposed and their arms are open and their legs are open, they actually do and innately follow through on a reflex called the Morrow or the startle reflex. And it's usually the occupational therapists that are trained in that, where these babies will startle if they're not swaddled. Now, you would never swaddle a baby when they're feeding. Okay, because they need to be open and touching you and be close to you. Otherwise, it's too restrictive. But if you've done everything, you've fed, burped, changed, cuddled, made sure there's not a wind, and you've gone through all the ticks of what this need could be and baby's still unsettled, swaddling may just calm them down and just bring them into that hug situation where they just feel content. And so swaddling is a good way to calm baby down, besides sucking and a pacifier and a soother.
Right.
And then positioning baby on their side. We call it deep pressure. So they teach this to the neonatal staff and the mothers and couples that have babies in neonates, where babies are very, very vulnerable and very open. And when they're unsettled, one way when you're feeling a bit touched out is to put baby down in a safe space, maybe on the change mat, never leaving baby, turn them on their side and just hold your hands nicely with a deep pressure on them, almost like a heavy blanket. And they actually calm nicely. It's almost a little bit of a hug, but it's also deep pressure. And that deep pressure just, with the reflexes and with the senses that babies has, just kind of grounds them a little bit and they feel secure. And that can stop them crying as well. So that helps as well. So positioning baby correctly. And yeah, so
and you know, we often do this. We are swinging baby around and you know, rocking and bouncing and
jig.
You
I
know,
call it the jig.
we are all, you know, this movement, and
right.
sometimes they respond to it, and sometimes they
don't.
Right?
Yes, because
is
they
that
might
good?
Just be. It's not a bad thing, but you can't do it in all directions. So some of the moms that are jigging from side to side, up and down, you have to move in one direction. You either move backwards and forwards,
right,
or up and down, or side to side. You can't be doing all three. The baby's going to feel it actually is overstimulation. So they're just going to get hysterical because they're unbalanced. And it has a lot to do with the vestibular part of the brain behind the head, at the side of the head here in the brain, behind the ear, where it's all unbalanced. So bouncing or jigging does help, but just control it. Now, the interesting thing is that even though the moms can do it in a chair, a ball, and you know the big balls that you can labor with in labor ward or do your exercise with, those balls help magnificently. There's something magic about them. I don't know what it is, but the mom's sitting on there, just bouncing up and down with the baby that is swaddled, maybe with a pacifier, those babies just start calming. And it's just that movement of up and down. Like I said, it's not backwards and forwards. It's not side to side. You'd fall off the ball.
Yes.
So it's just up and down. And makes,
it's a very
I always
gentle
have one in my
movement.
clinic because when we can't talk and baby's so unsettled and we can't get the consult done, get the moms to just hold their babies firmly and sit on that ball and just gently up and down, just slowly, and then bringing it slowly down so that you're almost stationary again and static. And those babies are calm and perhaps they fall asleep because they were overtired. And so that does help.
So those 5 S's again. We talked about the sucking, which is the
That's
pacifying, right?
Right.
The swaddling.
That's it.
And then you talked about leaving them on their side and
That's right.
on their stomach position.
With deep pressure.
Deep pressure, the swinging or bouncing.
That's it.
And 5th one is the shushing, right?
Yes, the shushing.
So
So there are even, so the shushing is just, and you'll find that grandparents and parents naturally do that. Go, shh, shh, shh,
Yes.
You know, it's such an interesting thing. Going back to the swinging thing, you'll find mothers, older mothers. Well, when I talk older mothers, not in age, as in having older children, they're still rocking and swinging the shopping cart at the shopping trolley. There's no baby in it, but they're doing this. So that's quite interesting. But the shushing is that shh, 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 shh.
And
when
it's
you're
often
coming
done
close
while
to babies.
Swinging and bouncing,
Yes,
right?
correct. Can be a combination of those different S's. And you're coming close to baby's ear and it's just a gentle shh, almost simulating that white noise, that almost little bit of that uterine noise that they think babies hear in the uterus, which is described as a white noise. And I know there's different types of noises, but the white noise specifically, there's even little, I want to call them toys, but they're not. They're like a little item that you can buy that you switch on and makes like a shushing noise that you don't have to be doing it yourself. A vacuum cleaner, a hairdryer, they're all more or less that same type of drowning noise. Yes. The interesting thing is someone pointed out to me that babies could soothe with that, but almost get used to it. That if it was off, they would hear the dog next door, the door slam, and I kind of feel it has to be balanced. So use your white noise and your shushing to shush baby, but as a human, we couldn't be doing shh all the time
all the
anyway.
time.
So to have a white noise machine
Yes.
is not necessarily an essential to the baby nursery, layette.
Yes. And changing the environment, would that help?
It does. Obviously bright lights are stimulating. You don't want to make the room completely dark
Okay.
during the day. You could during the night and just have a night light to work with baby when you are getting up for feeds, but you want to have it just a little bit dimmed though. Even if you were to, I know every now and again I'll go and have a little nap in the afternoon, just a power nap, but close the curtains. You don't want the bright light coming in because obviously that's going to wake you. Those are stimulating things. So you want it to be quiet, not necessarily having a white noise machine, but necessarily just the normal noises. And babies up till 3 months actually inhibit noise. So they actually switch off themselves. It's after 3 months that you've got to kind of keep a little quiet around them. So don't tiptoe around a newborn. There's no point. They're switching off anyway. And so you'd have the environment conducive to naps. So for the first 3 months, certainly for the first 6 weeks, which is half of that, you could be settling baby down in the lounge where the TV's going, the dogs are barking and unsettled, and baby would sleep through it. After 3 months, it's not going to work. You need then but by then, babies are recognizing their environment and they will calm and soothe themselves in their recognized environment. That's why when you go away, they don't sleep so well. We don't either as adults because we check in like, hang on, where am I? Oh, yes, that's right. We're on holiday. We're in a different bedroom. Why is the ceiling a funny? Oh, hang on a second. We're away. So it's the same with babies. And, when they're in their comfortable little room, they recognize their pictures, they play in their room, they've got their change mat there, they're familiar with those objects. And by 3 to 6 months, they're starting to get to know their environment. It's part of that soothing, calming environment that they recognize that they're safe to nap and be put down for naps during the day as they develop that.
Now, we talk about soothing babies, but sometimes these crying babies can make us really anxious and emotional as parents, right?
Yeah.
You just want to pull your hair out. You question yourself as a parent.
Yes.
And you wonder, why are you doing this? Why did you ever do this? You know, what advice do you have for parents going through these to give themselves a moment?
Yeah. The most important thing is to seek help and just bounce off someone, even if it is a grandparent, grandmothers and grandfathers, but especially grandmothers because they've given birth to children before, obviously. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. And they just have a deeper knowledge of, and they're coming from the outside. Sometimes when you're in it and baby's here in your ear and you're just like, I have fed, burped, changed, cuddled, I've done everything, I'm losing it, I'm going to really be falling off the edge of the mountain very soon. You actually need to bring someone in to see, are they not seeing something that we're not actually seeing in that environment where a granny can pick up, but hang on a second, this is a different cry, or I can see baby's unsettled. He wasn't like this yesterday. Has something changed? And then you suddenly realize, oh, wait, we went for immunizations yesterday. That can have a little bit of effect on baby. That's why he's so unsettled. Or like I said, he hasn't done a stool for a couple of days. Things where you can unpack and haven't thought of because you're so tired, you're not thinking straight.
Mentally
and yet someone
exhausted,
can come in. So often the dads will pick up on things and they seem very practical. They'll go, oh, could he be teething? Or has he made a stool today? And you go, gosh, I haven't even changed a nappy today. Where have I been? I'm so tired. It's 4:00 in the afternoon. Maybe it's just a nappy change, and you just haven't realized. I mean, it happens. It's normal. And you feel bad as a parent. But in spite of this, your child survives. But you will definitely, like I said, if something was seriously wrong and that baby wasn't well, the most important thing to attend to a baby is actually quite the opposite, where they become lethargic. When a baby is very lethargic, they're not feeding. So it's kind of the behavior that baby has after a good feed. You know that where they're kind of like full of milk, like a tick. And they're kind of like,
Siesta time.
That's it. And they're very relaxed. But that behavior all the time, when they're not feeding, but they're very lethargic and very pup, as we say in South Africa, is a very good descriptive Afrikaans word. And they're just not responding well. Those are not well babies.
Okay.
And crying is almost like an early cue where you've achieved all the other needs and here baby's still crying, something is just not right. Let's rather check in with a healthcare professional. Let's check in with granny, and granny says, no, I'd rather you just go and take him to the doctor. And obviously, if it's after hours, to an emergency room. If you can't get hold of your peds, some of the peds will meet you at the hospital. It just depends. But have someone check that baby out and just make sure that maybe there isn't something else happening, because baby's giving an indication that something's not right.
So besides the crying, what else would be the red flags when we need to seek advice?
If baby's got a fever, especially if baby is very young, especially a baby under 6 months, definitely under 3 months, you do not play. If you suspect and you're not sure that baby has a fever and you suspect baby's a little bit warm, rather take that baby in to be seen, because babies don't have the capacity to... A fever, it's not the fever that's actually the problem. A fever is in response to an illness, and it's the type of illness that is actually the concern. So is it meningitis, or is it just influenza A or RSV or something like that? But still, those can be serious with babies, can be life-threatening with babies. Or is it something gastro? You won't really know until they've either diagnosed or swabbed baby. But at least you know that you suspect baby's got a fever, rather take baby in. Dehydration, I often say to the moms, it's not so much, so it's interesting, babies will have that little sunk fontanelle, but that can happen naturally during the times of the day to the pressures of the earth and so forth. If their urine is dark yellow, or you're just noticing they're not drinking nicely, they're not feeding well, then you need to heed. And that's a red flag. If babies are a little bit offish crying, but they're still feeding well, they're still sleeping, they're settling, their urine is a light yellow, clear color, just watch baby and monitor. But if those are the opposite, baby's not feeding well, not settling to sleep, doesn't want to be put down, the urine, he's not taking in enough, so his urine is a little bit dark in the nappy, or he wheezes and you notice it on the mat and it's a dark yellow color, rather go in and have baby checked with the doctor, because it's possible that he's coming down with an illness, and you won't really know until you've had a health professional examine baby. And that's really important.
So where can parents go besides to your pediatrician? What are the other sources of professional help?
Okay, so during the day and during a working day, your GP, your general practitioner, is someone that you can go to. If they feel that baby's not well and needs to be admitted, they will phone the pediatrician or send you to the pediatrician with a referral letter, because pediatricians are busy and sometimes you can't get an appointment immediately.
Absolutely.
And they're very specific doctors for babies. So your general practitioner can see you at a moment's notice usually, or at least there's someone that's locum in and on call during those hours. After hours, if there isn't a place where you can go that is open 24 hours, it would be a casualty setting. And most of the casualties in this country are run by a GP practice anyway. Some of them are associated with the hospital, some are separate. And so it would still be an assessment with a general practitioner. If it is at the same hospital you gave birth, there's usually pediatricians. If you've been with a pediatrician at birth, you're already under that pediatrician. He is now obliged to care for that baby and be called out for the care of that baby once baby's been assessed in the emergency room.
Absolutely.
And then, of course, there are well baby clinics that at various pharmacies, myself, where well baby clinics is actually for a well baby. But if a mom is not sure that baby's well, she could always phone that nursing sister, just describe what's going on, and she can then... that professional can then give guidance. No, I do think that you need to take baby in, rather go and have baby checked. And just a caution on social media, there are lots of groups on Facebook that I keep just track of. I will just scout on them just to see how moms manage. And there's lots of asking questions with regards to this. That is not your platform to be asking about medical conditions and so forth. Take your baby to a doctor or to one of the government clinics, one of the pharmacies, and rather have your baby seen to. And they can always refer you to the appropriate person that they feel you need to be with.
And I think as moms and as parents, we always want to give advice because we've been through it, we've done it. But ultimately, moms and dads, go and see a medical professional.
Correct.
If you have concerns, if you have worries, if you know that this cry is inconsolable, if that is, it's absolutely different and it's something you know is wrong, ultimately, no matter what we say,
correct,
always seek professional advice because you know best.
That's right. That's
So,
right.
Linda, for all our mums and dads that are going through the crying babies and trying to get through this phase of their lives, if you had one piece of encouragement about handling these tough crying spells, what would that be?
Just know that it can be natural for some babies just to be sensitive to what I call adjusting to the outside world. Some babies adjust very well in the first 6 to 8 weeks, and then by 3 months it's a whole different ball game. They're now getting into life and fitting into a feeding pattern as well as a normal life pattern and routine. And some babies just take time to be used to everything that's coming at them. They're just sensitive babies. Sometimes it's not a medical condition that they're struggling with or getting sick or having an illness. They're just taking time where they just need space and time to adjust to the outside world and just need a little bit more time with mom. You are not spoiling a baby by keeping them close to you. In fact, they don't know the difference. They will learn how to go to sleep, and we can always teach them how it is good. Well, we call them good sleep hygiene habits. We can teach them that if they've learned a certain way with mom. But there is no harm in keeping baby close to you for the first 3 months. And after that, they want to be on the floor. They want to be exploring. They want to be doing their tummy time and playing and doing other things. And some babies are just more sensitive and they just need more time to adjust. And they'll let you know, and you'll get used to those little cries, and your heart, don't underestimate that sixth sense of your mother heart and your father heart that just tells you this baby just needs me a little more than my friend's baby is settling better. Yeah.
Oh, well, Linda, thank you so much for breaking this down so compassionately. It really, really helps all our listeners, I think.
Yes. Lovely. Thank you.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure having you with us. And we know we're going to be talking to Linda about lots more. She is a gold mine of information and support for all our mums and dads. And if they want to reach out to you, please let us know where they can find you again.
So I run a Well Baby clinic at the Little Bright Fox Mom and Baby Studio. And that is a mom and baby studio in Weltevreden Park. And I run a Well Baby clinic there in the afternoons. So they can reach me there. All my information is actually on their handles.
Wonderful.
On Instagram, on Facebook. They've got blogs. It's online. So that, they can go onto the internet, Little Bright Fox, and they can get my details either from Danny or Jen, or my details are on there as well. And yes, I'd be very happy to guide parents further on their journey.
Wonderful.
And yes, that's where you can reach me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Virginia.
And thank you all so much for joining us today on this episode of Mama Magic's Lights, Camera, Baby. I hope this conversation with Sister Linda Britz has given you some comfort and practical tools on how to guide you through those crying spells. We know that they can be a lot, and you need all the help you can get. But remember, your baby's cries are their ways of communicating with you. And every time you respond with love, you're building trust and connection. So like Linda's just said, if you'd like to connect with her about some of the support she offers, you can get hold of her at Little Bright Fox Mom and Baby Studio. If you search for that, you'll be able to find Linda and connect with her. And to all our listeners, once again, thank you so much for being part of our Mama Magic community. If you found this episode helpful today, please share it with another parent that might need the reassurance. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. I'm your host, Progeny Pather, and until next time, take it one day at a time, and remember, you're doing better than you think.